In the beautiful village of Nsoko lived a young woman named Adanna. Adanna was known throughout the village for her beauty, grace, and kindness. Her skin was smooth and polished, and her eyes sparkled like the stars on a clear night. She was married to Emeka, a man whose love for her was pure and unwavering. For 5 years, they had shared their lives together. But there was one shadow that darkened Adanna's otherwise happy life. She was a barren woman. In Nsoko, motherhood was seen as a woman's highest calling, a sign of favor from the gods. The people believed that a woman's worth was measured by the number of children she bore. Unfortunately for Adanna, this belief became the source of endless torment. Though she and Emeka were deeply in love, spending their days together in quiet happiness, the villagers began to gossip behind their backs. The women of Nsoko, particularly, took great pleasure in mocking her. They gathered at the riverbank every morning, laughing and gossiping at all who passed by. "Look at her," Nneka would sneer as Adanna approached the river. Nneka, a mother of 6 healthy children, was the ringleader of the village women and took great pride in her large family. A woman so beautiful, yet no children to show for it. "What a waste," Nneka would say. "Maybe the gods are punishing her," another woman, Chioma, would add. "What good is beauty if you cannot even bear a child?" Adanna, outwardly strong, felt the weight of their words like a heavy stone in her heart. She kept her head high as she fetched her water, pretending not to hear their insults. But when she returned home, the loneliness engulfed her. She longed for a child, someone to love and hold, someone who would silence the cruel voices of the other women and bring peace to her heart. Emeka, ever the devoted husband, would comfort her. "Do not listen to them, my love," he would say, holding her close. "You are more than enough for me. Children will come when the gods are ready." But it wasn't just the women of Nsoko who tormented Adanna. Emeka's mother, Mama Emeka, was a harsh and impatient woman. She had high hopes for her son, and after 5 years of marriage with no children, her frustration grew by the day. "You have been in this house for how many years now?" Mama Emeka would say with disdain. "Still no children. No grandchildren to warm my old bones. What kind of woman are you?" Adanna would lower her head in shame, unable to respond. She had prayed and sacrificed at every shrine, seeking favor from the gods, but still, no child came. "If you cannot bear my son children," Mama Emeka would continue, "perhaps it is time for you to leave so he can marry another woman who will." Adanna's heart shattered into pieces with each cruel word. She loved Emeka dearly, and the thought of leaving him was unbearable. But what could she do? She had tried everything, her prayers, her sacrifices, yet her womb remained empty. One particularly harsh day, after an argument with Mama Emeka, Adanna fled from the house. She could no longer endure the pain and the shame, the whispers, the constant pressure to fulfill a role she so desperately wanted but could not control. Her feet carried her away from the village, into the thick forest beyond. She didn't know where she was going, she only knew she needed to escape. As the sun began to set and the shadows of the trees grew longer and darker, Adanna found herself at the foot of a great tree. This was the forbidden tree, a place the villagers feared. Legend said that spirits and ancient gods lived in the tree's depths, and those who ventured too close would never return. But Adanna was not afraid. At that moment, she felt she had nothing left to lose. She knelt before the tree and wept. "Oh, great spirit of the tree," she cried, her voice trembling. "I come to you with a heavy heart. Please, hear my plea. I have been mocked, shamed, and tormented because I cannot bear a child. If there is any mercy left in this world, please bless me with a child of my own. I am willing to do anything." For a long moment, there was silence. The wind whispered through the trees, and Adanna feared no one had heard her cries. But just as she was about to rise and return home in despair, a soft voice called out from the darkness. The voice was gentle but commanding. Startled, Adanna looked up, and saw an old woman standing behind her. The woman was dressed in simple white robes, her hair. The woman's hair was silver like the moonlight, and her eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom. There was something otherworldly about her presence, as if she was not entirely from this world. Who are you? Adanna asked, wiping her tears. I am the servant of the tree, the old woman replied, her voice like the rustling of leaves. Why do you weep so bitterly, my child? I weep because I cannot have a child, Adanna explained. And without a child, I am nothing in my village. My mother-in-law despises me, and the women mock me. I would give anything to be blessed with a child. The old woman regarded her with a knowing gaze. You speak of children as though they are the only measure of your worth, she said gently. But there is more to life than the gift of motherhood, Adanna. Do you not see the beauty and kindness within you? She paused, then sighed. Still, I understand your pain. The path ahead will not be easy. But if you are truly willing to do anything, then I will show you a way. Adanna's heart raced with hope. I will do anything, she said earnestly. The old woman nodded and pointed to a narrow path that led deeper into the forest. Follow this path to the heart of the sacred grove. There, you will find a tree unlike any other, its branches reach the heavens, and its roots stretch to the depths of the earth. Pluck one leaf from its branches and return to me. Without hesitation, Adanna rose and followed the path. The forest grew darker and more foreboding with every step, but she pressed on, driven by the hope that her prayers might finally be answered. After what felt like hours, she reached a small clearing bathed in the silver glow of the moon. In the center stood an ancient tree with shimmering leaves that sparkled like stars. Adanna stood in awe for a moment, marveling at the tree's beauty. Then, carefully, she plucked a single leaf from its branches. But as she turned to leave, a voice echoed through the clearing. Beware, Adanna. The voice whispered, though there was no one in sight. The path you seek comes with a price. Adanna's heart pounded. What price? She called into the darkness. But there was no response. She hurried back to the old woman, who waited for her at the foot of the tree. You have done well, the old woman said, taking the leaf. Now, listen carefully. When you return to your village, plant this leaf in your garden and tend to it every day. It will not grow into an ordinary tree, it will show you the way to motherhood. But you must be patient. Adanna thanked the old woman and hurried home, her heart filled with hope. When she returned to her hut, she did as instructed, planting the leaf in her garden and watering it faithfully each day. Weeks passed, and to her amazement, a small sprout emerged from the soil. But it did not grow like any ordinary plant. Instead, it twisted and turned into strange, otherworldly shapes. As the plant grew, Adanna's dreams became more vivid. She dreamed of a small child, a boy with eyes as bright as the sun. He would call out to her in her sleep, reaching for her with tiny hands. But each time she tried to hold him, he vanished into thin air. The villagers soon noticed the strange plant growing in Adanna's garden, and whispers spread like wildfire. What is she doing now? They muttered. Perhaps she has turned to witchcraft to get a child. Even Mama Emeka grew suspicious. What is this thing growing in your garden? She demanded one day. You will bring a curse upon this house. But Adanna ignored them all. In her heart, she knew the plant held the key to her deepest desires. She continued to tend to it, even as the gossip and rumors grew louder. One day, when the plant had grown tall and strong, something extraordinary happened. As Adanna watered it, the plant began to glow with a soft golden light. From its branches, a single fruit appeared, shaped like a small golden god, shimmering in the sunlight. Adanna knew, deep in her soul, that this was the moment she had been waiting for. Carefully, she plucked the fruit and brought it inside. That night, in her dreams, the old woman appeared once again, standing in a clearing surrounded by moonlight. Her expression was calm, yet serious. You have done well to follow the path with patience, the old woman said softly. Now, the fruit you have plucked is no ordinary fruit. It holds the essence of life. But be warned, the gift of a child, like all gifts from the spirits, comes with conditions. Adanna's breath caught. What conditions? The old woman stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. You must consume the fruit if you wish to bear a child. But understand this, your child will not be like others. He will be a blessing, yes, but his destiny will be tied to the spirits. You must raise him with great care, for he will not belong to this world alone. What do you mean by that? Adanna asked, confused and anxious. In time, you will understand, the old woman replied. But know this, Adanna, the love and protection you give him will shape his path. If you are ready to take this responsibility, then eat the fruit at sunrise. With that, the old woman disappeared. Adanna awoke, her heart pounding. The golden fruit lay on her table, glowing faintly in the morning sunlight. She hesitated, thinking about the old woman's words. What did it mean for her child to be tied to the spirits? Would he bring danger? Was she truly ready for such a burden? But then she remembered the years of mockery, the pain of her longing. She had not come this far to turn back. At dawn, she took the fruit in her hand and, with a prayer to the gods, ate it. The taste was unlike anything she had ever experienced, sweet yet strange. As soon as she swallowed it, warmth spread through her body, as if the sun itself had taken root within her. She knew, in that moment, that something had changed. Days turned into weeks, and soon Adanna realized she was pregnant. Her joy knew no bounds. She rushed to tell Emeka, who was overjoyed. Even Mama Emeka, who had been so harsh before, softened at the news. The villagers were astonished. The woman they had mocked for years was finally with child. The whispers turned from ridicule to curiosity. How did it happen? They asked. What magic did she use? But Adanna kept the secret of the old woman and the golden fruit to herself. As her belly grew, so did her dreams. Every night, she dreamed of her child, always the same boy with bright eyes, laughing and reaching out to her. But in some dreams, shadows loomed around him, and the old woman's words echoed in her ears. He will not belong to this world alone. Months passed, and finally, the day of birth arrived. It was a long and difficult labor, but in the end, Adanna gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. He was perfect, with skin as smooth as hers and eyes that gleamed with an otherworldly light. They named him Chidi. From the moment he was born, it was clear that Chidi was not an ordinary child. As a baby, he rarely cried. Instead, he would gaze around the room with wide, curious eyes, as if he could see things no one else could. And as he grew, strange things began to happen around him. One day, when Chidi was only a few months old, Adanna carried him through the village when a strong wind began to blow. The villagers rushed to secure their huts, but Chidi giggled and reached out his tiny hands. Just like that, the wind stopped. The villagers were stunned. They began to whisper, "The child has powers. He is favored by the spirits." As Chidi grew into a toddler, more strange events occurred. Flowers bloomed wherever he crawled. Animals, even the wildest ones, seemed drawn to him, as if they recognized something in him that the villagers couldn't see. At first, Adanna was overjoyed by her son's gifts. It was everything she had prayed for and more. But as time went on, she began to worry. The old woman's warning weighed heavily on her heart. What did it mean for Chidi to be tied to the spirits? Was his destiny truly in her hands, or was there something greater at work? One evening, when Chidi was about 5 years old, Adanna took him to the same spot at the foot of the forbidden tree where she had first met the old woman. She needed answers. As she stood there, she called out to the spirits. "Great spirit of the trees, I have come once again. I beg you, please, tell me what lies ahead for my son. What is the meaning of?" For a long time, there was silence. Adanna's heart began to sink, but then, just as before, the old woman appeared, stepping out from the shadows as if she had been waiting all along. "You have done well in raising your son," the old woman said, her eyes filled with kindness. "His gifts are a blessing, but they also come with great responsibility. He was born of the tree's magic, and the spirits watch over him. But as he grows, he will have to choose his own path." "Choose?" Adanna asked, confused. "What choice must he make?" The old woman smiled softly. "There will come a time when Chidi will be called to serve the spirits, to live among them and use his gift for the good of the world. But the decision will be his. You cannot make it for him. Adanna's chest clenched. The thought of losing her son was unbearable. Will he have to leave me? The old woman placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Perhaps. But remember, he is not yours alone. The world needs him just as much as you do. You must be strong and trust that whatever path he chooses, it will be the right one. With that, the old woman disappeared once again, leaving Adanna standing at the foot of the tree, her heart heavy with both pride and sorrow. As the years passed, Chidi continued to grow, and his gifts became even more apparent. He could heal the sick with a touch of his hands, calm storms with a whisper, and speak to the animals of the forest. The villagers came to revere him. No longer did they whisper behind Adanna's back, instead, they bowed in awe when Chidi passed by. Yet Adanna could not forget the old woman's warning. She knew the day would come when her son would have to choose his path. When Chidi turned 18, that day finally arrived. One morning, as Adanna prepared breakfast, Chidi came to her with a solemn expression. "Mother," he said quietly, "it is time." Adanna's heart broke, but she nodded, knowing this moment would come. "Do you know where you will go?" she asked, her voice trembling. Chidi smiled gently. "The spirits have been calling me in my dreams. I must go to the foot of the great tree. But don't worry, Mother. I'll always be with you, even if I'm not here." With tears in her eyes, Adanna embraced her son. She had raised him with love and care. She could not stand in the way of his destiny. That evening, as the sun set behind the great tree, Chidi left the village. Adanna watched him go, her heart filled with both pride and sorrow. She knew he would become something greater than she could ever imagine. But she also knew that the love between them would never fade. From that day on, the villagers told the story of Adanna and her son, the child of the great tree, born of magic and love. Though she missed him dearly, Adanna found peace in knowing she had played her part in something far greater than herself. And so, her story, like the ancient tree, lived on. A tale of hope, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting tales filled with lessons and adventures.